Welcome to The PA is In, the show created by PAs for PAs, where codependency with your supervising physician is a thing of the past, optimal team practice is the future, and physician associate has taken the place of physician assistant as the professional title of choice. I'm Tracy Bingaman, and I'm obsessed with redefining what success as a PA looks like and what it feels like. Here you'll find the mindset shifts, systems, and processes I use to escape healthcare burnout and integrate my work into my life. Work-life balance is a myth, and an integrated life where you thrive professionally, not a balancing act, is the goal here. My mission is to help you to grow into a unicorn PA who loves their job, has abundant energy, time to spare, and work-optional financial freedom. The PA is in. Have you ever had this experience where you were offered a job at an employer or a health system that had a reputation of not negotiating with advanced practice providers? Or maybe you tried to negotiate with them in the past and they gave you the cold shoulder or didn't respond to your requests or refused to give you the time of day. Our guest on the show today is a PA who took her experience and added in some significant confidence to negotiate a full-time offer down to a per diem position that she could do on her own terms with a per diem hourly rate, and how she made that happen with a healthcare system that has refused to negotiate with other providers in the past. Lauren Spain is going to give you so much inspiration, a reminder that confidence really matters. And this episode is for you if you are feeling a little stuck and a little frustrated with the response or lack of response that you have gotten when you've tried to negotiate in the past. Without further ado, here she is, Lauren Spain. Before we dive in, I want to share the PA is in review of the week. This week's review is 5 stars, which is our favorite number of stars for any review. This reviewer says, a must listen for all PAs. I've been searching for a podcast that covers medicine from the PA perspective, and this took the cake. There is a wealth of knowledge to be gained listening to Tracy and her guests that will be sure to inspire many new grads and seasoned PAs alike. I'm looking forward to future episodes and seeing the PA network grow. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to leave a review. If you want a chance to have your review read on a future episode, head to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review with a description of what you love or don't love about the show, and we will read it on an upcoming episode. Lauren, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Could you just take a minute to introduce yourself to our listeners? Tell us a little bit about you, your life, your family, and your career as a PA.
Sure. So my name is Lauren Spain. My entire career have been in orthopedics as a PA, and I currently have a husband and 2 kiddos. My kiddos now are 4 and 6, which sounds wild because I feel like they should still be babies. And I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Awesome. Well, Colorado is my dream state to live in, so I didn't know about that, but definitely want to ask you all of the questions offline about living in Colorado. Did you at any point during your career step away from practicing medicine, like when the kids were young, and how did that go for you?
I did. And I never would have thought in 1,000 years I would be that mom that did that. So I graduated in Atlanta, Georgia, took my first job in Atlanta, Georgia, knowing that we weren't going to stay there. And then pretty quickly we moved to Colorado Springs, doing it before having babies, because we were no kids. We can go wherever we want. The world's our oyster. We like to ski and vacation all the time in Colorado. So let's go there. So got my first job here with an orthopedic surgeon that specialized in total joints, but did a little bit of sports medicine, a little bit of trauma, kind of a little bit of everything, and loved him. I will forever say, taught me everything that I know. He took me in as what I would still consider really a new grad and taught me the ropes. He is a godly man that was very important to me as well. So it was nice to have a supervising physician that shared in that. And he's very family centric. So he actually has children my age. So he was like full generation above me. So really came in as a fatherly figure to me, not only professionally, but really in life as well. So he saw me through the births of both of my babies. We joked that my second kiddo was born on his birthday. So, and it was a C section like scheduled date. So it was like, I can do it on the 30th or the 29th. And he was like, the 29th, it's my birthday. And I was like, so for your birthday this year, I'm getting you no PA for 10 weeks. Happy birthday. Um, but he was always through everything. Both my kiddos had some medical stuff. Very much of your family comes first. I can survive without you. This place can survive without you. I have worked without a PA before. I can do it again. Please never put us first. Like your family should always come first. And my youngest came out with hip dysplasia, which being an orthopedic PA to adults was like, I'm prepared to handle this. I can do this. Um, and then my second kiddo came out with kidney stuff that we knew about in utero. We found on the 20-week ultrasound. So both of them, especially in that first year of life, were very intensive, like medical appointments and follow ups and all the things in between. And he was amazing in that respect. He always said, go take care of it. It's fine. Which then we also joked about. I was like, when you say things like that, though, it makes me feel like you don't need me. And I like to feel like you need me. And it was just sort of a running thing. But he was incredible for me. Like he was just all the things that you really want in your first supervising physician and really your whole life. So as I started having those babies, he, every time I had them was like, do you think you're going to come back? And I was like, yes, I'm going to come back. I'm not a stay at home mom. Yes, I'm coming back. Don't worry. And that was true. That was always my plan to be a full-time working mom. Both my parents are pharmacists and my mom is the very like ambitious working career woman. And that's what you see, that's what you know. And that was my plan all along. Um, and so we did that, and I worked with the surgeon that I loved. It wasn't always the schedule that I loved, but it was a surgeon that I loved and I knew valued and respected me. And we just had such a great dynamic that it was a good balance. And I always knew, though, again, he's quite a bit older than me, there was an expiration date on that relationship from the get go. I knew that there would come a time where he retired. And I really just hoped that when that time came, I would be ready to fly out on my own, and would be ready for the changes that came with that. So I always thought, and he always kind of said, my timeline is 2022, 2023 ish. My license expires in 2020. I think it was like the end of 2022. And he was like, I'm not going to renew. So that was sort of this working timeline that I had in my head, of what I thought were like the glory days. And and then the pandemic happened, and the pandemic was hard. And yes, we were in orthopedics, so we were not really like direct, the front lines type caregivers, but it affected our practice significantly. It affected what we did in the hospital significantly, and it just, impacted medicine the way that it did. And a lot of things changed. And the beginning of 2021, it was like the middle of January, and he called me into his office, and our offices are like side by side. And like most of the time we would just like yell into the hallway to each other. But he was like, hey, come in here. I want to talk to you for a second. And he's like, shut the door. And I'm like, shut the door. It's never. So I shut the door, and he's like, I haven't told the hospital yet, and I haven't told really anybody yet. He's like, but I want you to have plenty of time to plan your next career step. So I'm telling you now so that you have plenty of time to do that. I plan to step away in August of this year. So this is January. And I was like, like immediate tears, like, I'm not ready. um, and he was like, I thought, at least another year or so. He's like, but I'm just done. He's like, I've just had all that I can take of medicine. I'm just done. And so I was like, okay. He's like, so keep that under the belt, but I want you to have time to plan. So I was like, okay. So at that time, I sort of in the background had this health coaching thing wavering in the background that I was like, no, no, I barely have enough time as it is. I can't take any more time away from my family. That I will never do that. So thanks for the offer, but not interested. At that same time, though, because being a working mom, having some, kiddos with special stuff, and we had daycare kids. Our kids have always been daycare kids, and we had a wonderful nanny that we ended up hiring right before the pandemic hit because my youngest got hit so hard that first winter. We were having hospital admissions and oxygen at home needs and all these things that it was clear we needed a nanny. So we got a nanny, and she was a godsend. I will forever say that beyond my husband and my children, she is probably the best thing God ever sent me because I call her my stay-at-home wife. And I think every mom needs a stay-at-home wife, and she was amazing. She saved our life. But in these kind of last year or so with my supervising surgeon that I loved, it had gotten to the point where I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old who was still nursing. But like I would come in from a 12 or 14-hour day, and like they would stand at the door and cry as the nanny left, not interested in greeting me, just cry because she was leaving. So it was very clear to me as a career mom, I'm not their preference. And it doesn't matter how wonderful your nanny is and how much you love her and how much you love your job. That's a blow to the heart. And so when my surgeon announced this retirement earlier than I was expecting, it was kind of this, what are you doing next? Do you really want to stay in this type of position? And while I do love orthopedic surgery, most orthopedic positions are like a one-to-one sort of relationship between a surgeon and a PA. And like you're really their right-hand man. When they're in surgery, you're in surgery. When you're in clinic, they're in clinic. And like you probably have your own panel, which was our setup, but like my surgery and my schedule mirrored his. And that meant on days that we were on call, I might not see my kids at all. Like I vividly remember the days of like getting my little newborn and my babies out of their cribs and nursing them while they were still asleep, getting in the car, pumping all the way on my 40-minute commute to work, pumping 4 more times during the day, coming home and like, oh, I just missed them. They're down for bed already. So they never saw mom. So of course, they become into a situation where they have a preference towards nanny. They have more waking hours with her. And so I kind of had this gut check of like, if you take on another position like this, especially in orthopedic surgery, elective orthopedic surgery, you're going to be somebody's hand man. And do you want to do that? And I wasn't sure was the real answer. I wasn't really sure I wanted that because I really missed my kids and I missed being like I wanted to be their preference. And so, I decided, yeah, I've got 6 months. I've got 6 months to kind of like figure this out. Am I staying with this group and moving into a new surgeon's relationship? Am I leaving? Am I just stopping? What am I doing? And so I was like, hey, that health coach thing, maybe I'll just give that a go. I'll just see what I can do with it during my commute while the 6 months I've got going. So in that time, I found that I really liked it, actually. It was sort of this happier space of medicine that we always don't get in clinical medicine. And it was very fulfilling. What I found it to be very helpful was I was having conversations on my commute home, and I might leave work kind of frustrated and it was a hard day and it was not always the most like grateful day in medicine, and I could get in my car and have these conversations that were really uplifting and very satisfying. And then by the time I got home, I wasn't in a bad mood anymore. So it was great. So 3 months into this, like kind of fast forward down the road into the Mayish, June-ish area, and my hospital system, which at the time I didn't know, but a lot of hospital systems started doing, they fired 2 of my male colleagues, 2 of our orthopedic surgery PAs who had been with our group longer than me, had more clinical experience than me. But like one of their surgeons had gone to a new hospital, one of their surgeons had retired, and the plan was always for them to kind of stay in clinic until we replaced those surgeons, and then they would go with them. And then on one Friday, they got fired and were told, don't come back on Monday. Go get your stuff out of your office. We're all done. And HR department had a meeting with me the day after those two's appointment. So everybody was like, am I getting fired? Am I not? But my surgeon was still there until August. So I was pretty certain I was getting fired because he knew nothing about it because I asked him. And so I didn't know what was coming. And so basically what came was I'm sure you've heard, yeah, I've heard, they're like two of my best friends, that we fired X and Y, and we need you to absorb a lot of that in your clinic patients and your numbers. And we need you to get your charts done faster. Always in medicine, charts have always been my downfall. I'm not a quick chart person, and I always spend too much time with patients. But they were like, we need you to absorb a lot of that. Everybody's going to kind of absorb, and we need you to do so as well and kind of raise the number of patients you're seeing every day in clinic. And I basically said, I don't think that that's going to work for me. I feel like right now I'm doing all that I can do. I am staying late every day to do charts. I am maxed out at my patient amount to me that allows me to continue to deliver quality patient care. And I'm really not willing to sacrifice what I consider my quality patient care for your bottom line.
Are you sick of getting mystery beef at the grocery store from some unknown corporate production line? Promised Land Meats offers premium beef raised from a family farm, personalized to your family's needs and delivered to your door. We've been a customer of theirs for over a year, and we love the meat. Even Dan, who is really hard to impress when it comes to beef, won't stop raving about the quality of these cuts. You can truly taste the difference. Choose the Farm to Family subscription plan and get a customized farm-raised beef box shipped to your door every 1, 2, or 3 months. Skip the grocery store and shop with your American farming family by going to promisedlandmeats.com or click the link in the show notes. Yeah, I'm already at or over capacity. I don't have room to do more.
Correct. So I vividly remember sitting across from, at the time, our hospital CFO, who was having this conversation with me. And I left that conversation feeling like we were pretty clear. I was pretty clear on my number. I was pretty clear that I wasn't budging on that number, and we were all on the same page. So I walked out of the meeting and I went and made it very clear to all of our front office staff, our medical assistant staff, everybody who does scheduling. I want a hard stop put on my schedule, and I want it said not to book me over this. And if you book me over this, I will ask you to reschedule those patients, because at 4:30, if I'm behind, but the number is what I said it could be, then I only have me to be mad at. But if at 4:30 I still have 10 patients in the waiting room because you overbooked me by 5, then now I'm really upset with everybody involved. And so I made that very clear to everybody. So 1 week later, I get called in for a second meeting with our CFO. And this is about 6 weeks now before my surgeon has his last surgery date. So we had about 6 more weeks of total hips, total knees, revisions, all sorts of stuff. And my surgeon at the time was the only one in our group really doing revisions or total hips in general. So I walked back in because I have no idea. I asked my surgeon at the time, do you know what this meeting's about? And he says, no. We already had a new traumatologist coming in who had claimed me. I asked her if she knew what it was about. She said no. And I walk in and he's like, I want to know, why did you go tell the front office staff this number? We had agreed that you were going to try and increase your numbers. And I was like, that's not what I thought we agreed on. And I thought I was pretty clear that my number cap was what it was. And so we had sort of this very heated conversation. And I basically was like, I feel like if you're asking me to do this, then my pay should increase significantly. You're asking me to spend quite a bit more hours at work. You're now asking me to do more jobs than one person job. And he was like, well, it sounds like we have some irreconcilable differences. And I was like, I would agree with that. And I had this very just overwhelming sense of, as a young professional female sitting across the table from a middle-aged man who doesn't do my job. He does an admin job. He doesn't do my job, telling me what I'm worth. And I will never put myself in that position again. But I knew if I quit, then they don't owe me anything. So forced their hand a little bit. But he couldn't fire me because my surgeon still had 6 weeks of surgery. And my surgeon would have just said, well, I'm not doing those surgeries then. You took my PA. I'm not going to finish out. I'm just done. So I kind of had them like backed into a corner. So he's basically walks himself out of a corner and says, well, then we're going to give you 90 days. We're going to just let you complete your time with your surgeon. And when he's done, then we'll kind of just not renew your contract. And I said, that sounds great. And he said, do you have any questions about that? And the other two guys who had just been fired had like a formal HR letter. They had an HR representative at their meeting, all these things. I didn't have any of that in place. So I said, when does the 90 days start? Does that start from today or does this start from Monday? This was like a Thursday afternoon. And he was like, HR's on vacation, so I don't have a letter ready. So I'll get that to you on Monday. We'll have to start from Monday, which was like, yeah, you're suddenly talked yourself into something that you don't know how to get yourself out of because you have surgeons who aren't aware you're doing this. So that's kind of how it went down. So I walked out, called my, at the time, supervising surgeon who I'd been with now for 6 years and was like, well, they just gave me 90 days and they fired me. And he was like, I'm sorry, what? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, okay, I'm going to get out of my car and give them a call. And I was like, okay, well, whatever you do, say what you need to say, but I don't want my job back. Don't get me my job back. I am done. It has been clear that a respect barrier has been lost. Somebody who doesn't value my worth in this group after 6 years of loyalty and hard work, I don't want my job back. So say what you need to say, but don't give me my job back. And so he was like, okay. So he calls and he basically confirms that this guy did not intend for the conversation to go that way. I think he thought he could kind of bully and manhandle me into a corner. And I would say, just whatever to keep my job. I'll do whatever. I'll see however many patients. And I didn't. And then he didn't really have a choice. So that's how the cards fell. I played out my 3 months. I finished my time with my surgeon. The traumatologist who thought she was getting me was livid about the whole thing. But it was what it was. So I, at that point, knew I was leaving. And so drove that little side gig that I had started building as hard as I could. And I think really a lot of my confidence in that conversation was because I had that. Like, it wasn't at that point a PA income, but it was something on the back burner that gave me this confidence, this like self-worth of this. I don't have to have a 9 to 5. I don't have to work in the way I conventionally have forever to be where I need to be. And so I had a lot of cojones, for a lack of a better term, in that conversation that I probably wouldn't have otherwise. And so for 3 months, I worked my side gig really hard in the background of finishing out my 3 months with my surgeon. And then the last like 6 weeks I was there, I basically drained down all of my FMLA. I made them pay it all out to me. I used all my PTO. I had them all paid out to me, every single dime that they owe me, and had a really easy breezy like last 8 weeks with the group because I had 6 years worth of benefits built up. So then I left. And then the conversation between my husband is, what do you want to do? Now you've got this pretty significant side gig and now you've had all these days back with your kids. Like, what do you think? And I was like, well, I know my patience isn't great enough to be a stay-at-home mom, and I'm not good at that. But I also think like this has really just burned me in medicine. I'm burned out. I have no desire to be anybody's right-hand man, maybe ever again. Like, I feel like I got an angel and he's retired, and I don't really think I want to be that for anybody else. So I don't know. I don't know what I want to be. What do I want to be? So I started looking in all these PA Facebook groups. I really didn't know anybody. I don't really have many of my classmates in those realms, but there's a main PA mom group that I joined. And then I realized there's all these offshoots from the PA mom group, side groups, and really got very heavily involved with a lot of them. One of them being a Colorado PA group. And so I was very active. I would answer, I would question, I put all these things up. My original idea was I want to be an independent contractor, orthopedic surgery PA, who, like, your PA is out on COVID or your PA is out on maternity leave. I just come in and help you in the OR and sign, seal, deliver, leave. Because I never want to do charts again. I hate clinic. I don't want to be put on that quota thing again. And I really just like the OR. That's really the only thing in medicine that really brings me significant joy. So this sounded genius. So I found this Kentucky PA and I got on the phone with her because I saw she was doing this, exactly what I wanted to do. Got on the phone with her, figured out all the logistics with it. Honestly, spun my wheels for probably 6 months, and to finally realize that in the state of Colorado, you can't do this. It's not really legal because of the way our supervising physician laws are set up, the way our LLC dynamic is set up. I spun my wheels for 6 months to realize that it wasn't legally really something that could be fruitful right now. But in that 6 months, I had just been working my little side hustle that I enjoyed and spending a significant amount of time with my kids. And then I was really clear, full-time medicine is not for me. And I'm so burned out. I don't even really want to be in it right now. So I took a full 18 months off. In this time, I kept my nanny because I know myself well. And again, she is my godsend. And so I kept her. We just kind of got a much more fluid dynamic of, like, she did a lot of the things I don't enjoy, like the morning routines and the, like, dropping off at the, half day preschools and the pickups and the kiddo that's not there, whatever, and like the laundry and the dishes and all of these things. And I got to spend time diving more into my side gig, but also what my side gig opened up to me was a world that I didn't even know existed. So through that and those PA mom groups and side groups, I was able to make friends with other PA moms across the country. And then some of them became my clients. And I started having these conversations that I thought were so unique to the way I exited my hospital system. This really bad thing that happened to me, this huge unjust and this horrible thing that I didn't deserve as a hardworking, valuable clinician. And then I started having conversations that it's happening everywhere. It's happening to a lot. And whether it's not the, like, here's your 90 days, it's a, well, you're going to do this because you have no other option. And it made me so sad that these hardworking, really a lot of PA moms are kind of just being beat over the barrel and feeling this space of, I don't have another option, so I'm just going to take it. And I felt like suddenly I wasn't unique. My situation, unfortunately, wasn't unique. It's happening everywhere. Maybe the outcome's the same, maybe it's different, but why is medicine beating us up this way, and why is it happening? And some of it's because we're taking it. And I found, like, my voice. I found that I missed a lot of human connection and a lot of human interaction and things that make me really happy. And, in college and in high school, I did, like, lots of leadership stuff. I think some of us, and probably a lot of us, become PAs, and PAs really aren't in that, like, leadership ladder in a hospital. Like, right, you usually will see an RN who works their way to office manager, who works their way to the admin building, and, like, those sort of positions and pathways seem much less available to us, I think, as PAs. And so nobody ever really asked me, like, do you want to be in charge of a committee? Or do you have opinions that might make this system work better? Or all of that. So the creator and leadership side of my brain was just turned off. I just turned it off and became a PA. And I loved what I was doing when I was doing it. But I was really, like, in hindsight, I was just getting through the day all the time. And when I found this other thing, it opened my eyes. I started having conversations. I started having friends, and realizing that I have a lot more to offer the world than just my clinical expertise. And while I felt like I must be alone in this world because I vividly remember going through a hard identity crisis when I left that hospital. I wanted it, and I was mad, and I was burned out, and I was so done with it. But I got home and was like, I don't know how to be here. I don't know who this person is. I'm not cut out to be a stay-at-home mom, and I don't know how to be this. And it was a full culture shock, self-identity crisis for probably 45 to 60 days. And I felt like I had no friends because like all my friends were my male colleagues in orthopedics.
Most PAs bring home a decent paycheck, but aren't sure that they're investing enough or what approach to take for student loans. Caleb Pepperday is a certified financial planner who works specifically with APPs. Seeing that PAs, including his wife, were overlooked and physicians were treated with respect in the financial planning industry, he sought to rectify this mismatch by serving PAs with the excellence we deserve. Caleb's mission is to help make financial planning affordable for APPs regardless of their asset level. Head to advancedpracticeplanning.com and hit the Schedule a Conversation button to book your free consult. Your money is your largest wealth building tool, and failing to utilize it well could leave you wanting to retire without enough in your accounts or still having student loan payments when your kids are ready to attend college themselves. Caleb's clients can enjoy their money guilt-free while feeling confident in their savings and investments. Head to the show notes, tap the link, and call Caleb for your free consultation. On the call, Caleb will help you to determine whether his one-time or ongoing financial planning services are right for you.
And I needed some female interaction. I needed some female friends. All my school friends were in Oklahoma and Georgia. And I really didn't have any friends to speak of here in Colorado Springs because I've been working the whole 6 years that I was here. So I joined some like local church mom groups that were super helpful. And then, I continued to dig into these like PA mom groups and online friendships. One of those outlets was the Colorado PA mom group. I started pushing for let's have a get together. Like, is that going to be in Denver? Is it going to be somewhere in the middle? Is it going to be in Colorado Springs? Is it going to be in Castle Rock? Wherever. But like, can we get together? Let's get together. Please, let's get together. And so I see this on the main PA mom group all the time where people are like, we're the Illinois PAs. Let's have a get together. But like, nobody wants to plan it. So I was like, I'll be that person. I'll plan it. So I got us a Facebook thread. I started pushing for some in-person hangouts and started networking in person, but also a lot in our Colorado PA group of just like being in conversation with them of like, what are you doing? How are you doing it? So for 18 months, 6 months I spun my wheels with my independent contractor thing and then decided like just cool your jets. Like, let's just enjoy being home and just stop with the professional and just enjoyed like a really magical 18 months of being with my kids and being at home and not feeling like I had to get up every day and not feeling the hustle and the rush. But there's a tickle, right? Like there's that tickle of medicine in our brain that just won't really sleep. For me, it was the surgical side of things. Like it sounds a little bit sociopathic maybe, but like I missed closing skin. And you have that fear, I think, too, when you've spent so long in a career and like an education pathway of if I stay out too long, am I going to lose my skill set and then not be marketable? In the background of this, my husband has a platelet issue. He's had some major platelet things. He's had a lymphoma scare last fall and many things that kind of illuminated the eyes of like, you really need to be part-time, like because of the fatigue with ITP and because of it's really an up and down roller coaster, like part-time is really what you need to be doing. And really what that means is like, I need a little bit more than what the side hustle's doing. And we need a little bit more coming in. So my brain was like, all right, I know I don't want to be in full-time medicine. I know I don't want to be a 1-to-1 ratio in orthopedics, but like that's kind of all that exists in orthopedics. There's not really any other options. So I started doing what any medical mom would do that sat home and just perusing, job boards at night, late at night. And I saw this orthopedic trauma position that posted on like one of our hospital groups, the main hospital group, our level 1 trauma center had this full-time orthopedic trauma position. And it had been posted for a long time. Like I had probably seen it for at least 6 months, but it was full time. I kind of had an idea of what they did and didn't want any part of it. Well, then one night I happened to breeze through it and I see the same posting, but it was for nocturnal. And I'm a night owl and I like to do lots of arts and crafts at home after my kids go to bed and stay up late. And I was like, I don't think I could do that full time, but I could probably do it some nights. And so I filled out their stuff, put it in, and applied for the job. I'm very impatient and I gave it about 5 days. Hadn't heard anything. So in 5 days, I was like, okay, how do I take this into my own hands? I want to do this. And this is what I think I can negotiate into the position that I really actually want. It was listed as orthopedic trauma, full-time nocturnal position. Not what I wanted, but it was close enough. I thought I could get there. So after 5 days of not hearing anything, I powered up my PA mom online network that I had created, these little relationships that I had, put seeds into. And I said, does anybody have any connections to this group at this hospital system? Does anybody know anybody on the team that I could get in conversation with? And what do you know? One of the
It's like
moms.
magic. Everyone
What?
knows someone.
Magic.
Yeah.
It really is. Who do you know? So one of the vascular PAs was like, oh yeah, I work with their group all the time. I can get you into connection with them. Of course she works with their group. We decide we can't fix something, we tell vascular to cut it off. So she gets me directly connected with the guy that's like the head of their PA team. And he immediately calls me and we have like a 1 hour conversation of their team. So why that was useful to me is she got me actually directly connected to a human being. She was an immediate in for me because there was some level of trust already established between the two of them. And I had a 1 hour conversation with him who was not in a hiring position, but what he told me was the good, the bad, the ugly. I asked everything about the group. I asked, why has the job been posted for so long, daytime and now nocturnal? What's happening? I need to know
Who's
all the details.
leaving? Why are they leaving? Are you hiring for growth? Are you hiring because everyone's burned out and quitting? Like, what are the reasons for this vacancy? Yeah.
Precisely. So what I learned in that conversation is that like they've had two move away, they've had one retire. They are a level 1 orthopedic trauma service where the PAs primarily cover the service and just feed the surgeons the surgeries. They have heavy complexity. It's high acuity, it's high complexity. It's a big job. It's not for the faint of heart. So they had a couple who came in and weren't good fits or weren't up to it. But what I really learned in that conversation is that they were hiring, they needed about 4 or 5 people. They were that understaffed. And that was the key. So what I learned was there was a group who had desperate need and who had a position that was close to like what I thought was my ideal and what I wanted. So after we hung up, I suddenly felt like, and I think this is really important for anybody listening who's going into either a negotiation for their current position, a negotiation out of their current position into their dream position, or a negotiation like mine, where they're looking at taking on one and needing to negotiate in some degree of you need to know who's in the driver's seat. And the person in the driver's seat is the person who has less of a need here. So I found this group that had significant need and a need that I could help fill. And I knew that going in. So I knew because a lot of, and I see this in these PA groups all the time too, in negotiations of these hospital systems don't negotiate. They have a set amount based on years of experience, whatever, X, Y, and Z, and they've decided what they're going to pay and they won't negotiate. And I heard that about this hospital. I've seen it since my conversation that they don't negotiate. And I have, none of these big hospital associations are going to do any negotiating with you whatsoever. They won't come up a quarter. If you get a quarter out of them, you've won. And I was like, we'll see about that. So I go in and I go in through to my interview. I tell them like I'm really looking primarily for nocturnal type stuff because I have two kiddos at home who I still really value my daytimes with. And I'm a night owl. I don't mind being up. That's why this has caught my attention. I like orthopedics, but I don't really want to be in the elective orthopedic world where it's 1-to-1. Helpful in my corner. I had a year prior to this in my time interviewed with one of their elective orthopedic docs who offered me the position, and I was very forthcoming with him, telling him I didn't want it because I didn't want to be a right hand man and I felt like my time needed to be with my kids. So I messaged him, asked him to advocate for me, so he put in a good word for me. And then I had the guy I'd had the conversation on the phone with who liked me and wanted me, and so I went into my in-person interview. You do part of it with the admin and you do part with the group, and basically told them like I want to do nights. They told me all of them hate nights, that it's the number one shift they don't want to cover. They have probably 7 different types of shifts that have to be covered, and nights are the one that they all hate. And I was like, great, I can be that. And I'm very likable. So I charmed everybody. So then I got my job offer from the hospital for the full-time nocturnal orthopedic trauma position. And the dollar amount, to put it lightly, was insulting. It was incredibly low for, again, high acuity, high complexity night position. They told me, very confusing why you would tell somebody this in a admin position to your interviewee. There's no nocturnal differential. Well, you told me it's not there. So now I know I should ask for it. So I said, I see your offer. It's not something that I can even entertain at this time. Frankly, I find it insulting. So if you're serious about me as coming onto your team, you are going to have to do a better job than that. And then I messaged my guy who I had had the hour-long conversation with in the team. And I said, I just want you to know the hospital offered me the position. I can't take it as it stands. It's an embarrassing rate that I can't take. And he said, we've lost a couple of applicants already because of a lowball offer. He's like, let me work on this. And I was like, great, you work on that. And so admin came back to me. They'd come up a little. I'll give credit where credit's due. They had come up a pretty significant amount. They, I think, had come up like $11 per hour. And so I was like, okay, you're telling me you're serious and you're willing to negotiate. So then I said, I really am going to need a nocturnal differential. Like, you're asking me to be in this nocturnal position without one. I need a nocturnal differential. And they said, well, our hospital system doesn't offer that at this time. And I said, okay, what's your PRN differential? Let's talk about your PRN differential. The PRN differential was much closer, got me much closer to where I wanted to be. And I said, well, then I think that we need to really entertain this as a PRN hire. To which then the admin is like, well, what's changed? You said you wanted full time and now you want PRN. I said, well, the biggest thing that's changed is you can't offer me the right price for a full time position in this capacity. And if it's going to be a nocturnal and you're not going to pay me for that, then I need to keep my options open. So PRN makes a lot more sense for me. So if you can keep it at this rate, add the PRN differential, then we'll do that, knowing that I'm agreeing to do what nocturnal I can do, because now I'm not full time and not required to.
Right. Right.
And what were they going to do? They had their team that's drowning in work and can't cover clinic shifts and having to close clinics some days, saying, hire her, give her what she wants. We need help. And so I got them. And even since this time, I've heard, oh yeah, they don't negotiate. I'm like, they do. You just have to be in the driver's seat.
Yeah, I have heard that from a lot of people. You know, I coach people on negotiation. I do negotiation consults. I work with a lot of providers. And oftentimes when I'm talking about that in, forums or on LinkedIn, people say, my employer doesn't negotiate. And I think that sentence actually should say, I don't know how to get my employer to pay me more, or my employer doesn't negotiate with other people, or my employer doesn't negotiate as a manner of, their normal business practice. I don't care. I don't care about any of that. I care about how much money I'm making. So they can either figure it out and pay me more, or I can go find someone who will pay me more. I Before we wrap up, I want you to talk about, you have 10x the confidence of the normal provider in these situations where you're just like, no, absolutely not. Like, and you're saying what you think and you're getting what you want. Can you, for a second, talk to the listener who is like, I couldn't do that. I am not worth more. I am not worth more than the original offer. I don't know how to stand up and advocate for myself. Like, how do you know how much you're worth? Like, talk to that person who's like, oh, I mean, good for you, Lauren, but I don't have that kind of confidence to advocate and negotiate for myself.
I think it's a great question, and I would 100% agree with you. When you're being told a system doesn't negotiate, it's that they don't negotiate with certain individuals, and the right person, they will. And I think the biggest thing, again, it's kind of circling back to like that monumental moment when I was sitting across from that old CFO and was like, never again will I let a male counterpart who doesn't do my job tell me what I'm worth. And it stuck with me, and it like burned a hole and seed inside of me. And I think I had to, again, I was at home for 18 months and I did a lot of work in that 18 months, like a lot of self work, mental work, like all sorts of stuff of what am I worth? And I'm worth a lot. And if you don't see that, then this is not a great fit. And if you're not even willing to have a conversation about it, then this is a blessing in disguise for me because I don't want to be employed by you. But a lot of, I think, what gave me the confidence to say these things and do these things was a couple of things. I had come home, I had realized how much worth I provide to my children and my husband and the friendships that I had built and the other PA moms that I had at least maybe not helped, but just shared in you're not alone. We're not alone. We're all suffering in this together. And the only way for us to get better for ourselves is to link arms and not take it anymore and say no and demand what we're worth. And sometimes those conversations are really uncomfortable. I had some very uncomfortable conversations negotiating this position, conversations that I didn't enjoy, but I was like, if I'm not willing to take the offer as it stands, then I don't have anything to lose here.
Yeah. And I want to highlight multiple conversations. This is not one phone call, one email, one meeting. This is I asked and they came back, and I asked and they came back, and I insisted and they came back, and I, insisted again and they came back. This takes time and persistence and diligence. Like, this sometimes takes weeks to months, and you were in a position where they were desperate to onboard you and it still took a while. So if you're in a position where your employer's not desperate, it's really going to take a while, because what's their hurry? The sooner you get to the number, the sooner they start paying you more. They're not in a hurry to get this. You're the only one who's in a hurry to get paid more.
Tracy, this took 6 weeks from the day they offered to the job until the day we had something we were both agreeing on. 6 weeks while the team was drowning. Admin was in no rush, but I had to show them that neither was I. We can play this game as long as you want. I am not backing down, and I know that you need me.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I wish that there were more providers who had confidence in themselves and their own abilities. And I actually think we do have the clinical confidence. Like, if you ask us to do the thing, we can do the thing. We do not have the conversational confidence to have the hard conversation regarding our own compensation. We can give someone a cancer diagnosis. We can tell them their walking will never be the same, right? We can tell them really hard things, but we are not that good at advocating for ourselves when we are the ones that are going to benefit from, putting a stake in the ground and having this hard conversation.
I think because a lot of it's what we focus on in PA school is very clinical. We don't have business. Most PA programs don't have a business development like module. We don't have negotiation training most of the time. So we really don't know how you get new grads coming out accepting lower offers than they should. And like the old people in the field are like, don't, it's drawing our numbers down. But they aren't told not to. Nobody really tells them in these PA programs, negotiate for better. You do a lot of times the same work as your non-surgical physician.
Yep. Absolutely. So, as we wrap up here, I would love if you would tell people where they can find you on the internet. If they are saying, listen, I need Lauren in my network, I need her in my corner, I need her cheering me on, or just telling me all of the things that I can do, what are the places that they can go to find more of and connect with you?
Yeah. So I am admittedly not great at social media, but I'm getting better. And I have a podcast that, fingers crossed, in the next like month or two will be up and running. It's not out yet, but it is going to be a lot of geared towards like building these confidences in these professional moms and just moms in general of like your worth and what you provide the world, and finding what makes you passionate and drives your energy. Because a lot of my energy and my confidence comes from realizing that I do have a lot of value to add to the world outside of medicine. And I think that's important for us all to remember, that we have those things. We're not just a PA. And it makes us a better PA when we're there because we want to, not because we have to for a paycheck. And so that's a lot what I'm all about. So you can find me on Facebook at Lauren Elizabeth Spain. You've got to have the middle name to find me. And then on Instagram, it's at Lauren_Spain11. And a lot of my like new things that I do, I constantly doing new things, are put up there.
Awesome, Lauren. Well, thank you for taking the time out of your day to hop on and share this confidence and this passion with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks. It was so fun to be here.
I am in love with any episode that reminds us that confidence is the secret ingredient to success in so many different areas of life. When you feel confident in yourself and your skills, you come to the table differently for everything from dinner to your next salary negotiation. It's so great to be able to share things like this with you on this show. However, we are on a mission to reach as many providers as possible. So if this show resonated with you, send it to someone that you love who might need a reminder about confidence and negotiation. Head on over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. We would love for you to spread the word and share this show. It helps us get into the ears of more viewers and listeners just like you. That's all for today. This PA is out. Congratulations, you've just joined an awesome club. By listening to a full episode of The PA is In, you are officially on the Unicorn PA team. Welcome aboard. What most team members do is they subscribe to the podcast because that allows them to automatically get the latest episode of the show. The life of your dreams exists on the other side of taking action. Keep making small shifts and keep getting better. Your life will improve, your career will soar, and you will have the confidence you need to create your own success. I will see you in the next episode. This PA is out.